Getting acquainted with essential oils and coming to understand them can be a wonderful adventure. There's always something new to learn and always another oil to become acquainted with. In this course and in this Getting to Know Your Essential Oils section in particular, we will be discussing some of the things I have learned over the years. But before we do that, I would like to tell you the real secret behind understanding the healing potential of essential oils. It is a simple secret. Here it is. Every day, with everything that comes up in your family, reach for an essential oil as part of your response. If you do this, before long, every oil in your supply will have a person and a story attached to it. And that oil will be a part of you and the things you know. The Butterfly Express line, at least the ones that I created, whether I smell them or just hear their names spoken, brings to my mind one situation or another, one person or another, and the blessing that oil was in both of our lives. That is the way to really learn essential oils. Use them, help people improve their lives and be happier, and the oils that you have used will become very familiar to you. With that said, let me tell you just a little bit about my journey with essential oils. First, I began as a real novice. I guess everybody begins there. The only background that I had to help me with this new endeavor was an understanding of plants from an herbal perspective. But I didn't at first have sense enough to see the connection between the use of a plant as an herb and the healing properties of that same plant as an essential oil. And there were so many essential oils that were made from plants that were not among the medicinal plants with which I was familiar. So I did what I always do. I read and read and read. I ordered a few oils to play with. I borrowed a few drops of oil from everyone I could find that had ever heard of an essential oil and had any that they would share with me. Way back in those days, people who were using essential oils were pretty rare. I learned, and I use that word in the most facetious sense because I really didn't know much of anything yet. Anyway, I read about constituents of essential oils. They sounded so important. So I read and studied what little I could find on these constituents. Eventually, I made a big wall chart. Down one side, I put the essential oils I had managed to purchase. I think I had about 20 of them total then. Across the top of the chart, I put all of the constituents that I had any information about. Then I began reading about each oil and making a mark by each constituent if it was in that oil. What did I learn from that chart? I learned that most essential oils have a great many constituents in them. In fact, many of those basic oils that I had gotten my hands on had nearly all of the constituents that I had studied in their makeup. It made for a very colorful wall chart, and it taught me a great deal about the amazing healing properties possible with essential oils. And I learned that I had a great deal more to learn. I continued to learn about essential oils, concentrating on each oil individually and what it could be used for. I began to think about trying to make my own blends because the blends from MLM companies were out of my price range, and other blends that I found at Arizona swap meets and other such places just didn't seem to be, even to my novice nose, good enough quality. So I began studying single oils from a blending standpoint. I made a couple of wall charts for blending classifications. I started with notes. We will be talking about notes later on. Since there were only 4 categories that I knew about then, this chart was much smaller than the first one. What did I learn? I learned that there are some very deep base notes and some very light high notes, and that most of the rest of the oils that I had fell somewhere in the middle and can act under certain circumstances as either high notes or base notes. I felt cheated. I had learned some amazing things, but not nearly enough to suit me. Next, I tried another blending classification. Down came the notes charts, and up went a chart with words like personifier, enhancer, etc., and I was off and running on my learning journey again. This classification looked pretty straightforward, with once again there were only 4 categories, at least that I knew of in those days, so the chart was a manageable size too. Oils down one side, categories across the top. What did I learn? Quite a bit this time. I now had some idea which oils needed to go into a blend first and last, and which essential oils were supposed to blend well with which other oils, and which oils not to put together. I felt so smart. Today, following my own instincts and preferences, I often put oils together that the rules say not to, so I guess I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. But it was a good beginning, and I now knew enough to know that I didn't know much. Finally, seeing that I was a bit discouraged, my good husband said, "Honey, these are plants, and you're an herbalist. Why don't you try thinking of them as herbal plants, instead of left-braining them to death as medicines?" And I was finally off and running in the education about essential oils. First, I studied the oils that I knew so well as herbs. Then I studied the ones that were in similar plant families and thought about them from the herbal law of signature standpoint. And I studied the citrus oils. I read Valerie Wurwood's book, The Fragrant Mind, and began to see that essential oils have personalities that match up with our own good points and bad, and can help us balance our own emotions and heal the physical ailments that these emotions create. By now I was studying Chinese energy philosophies, and I began cataloging my oils. I had a few more by then, according to Chinese philosophies of yin and yang and meridians and chakras. It also helped that the blends I was making were working pretty well for certain people for certain things. Each single oil and the blends I had created with them began to have names and faces attached to them. Working with oils and with people is really the best way to get to know essential oils. We are going to begin, as I did, with constituents, because there are some basic groundwork laying things to be learned there. I hope that I've not gotten too technical, too involved, and too lengthy. I tend to do that. Hold on through constituents, reread the material a few times, and shelve it for later when some other pieces have been presented and fallen into place. The basics. A single essential oil, any essential oil from any plant species, typically contains anywhere from 100 to 400 different chemical compounds. Recently, chemists have been placing the upper range at 800 different chemical compounds. While there are certain compounds common to essential oils in general, every plant, and thus every essential oil, contains compounds unique only to themselves. Sandalwood, vetiver, and spikenard are rich examples of such oils, making it very difficult to find a reasonably effective substitute for the increasingly difficult to find sandalwood oil. When you add up the common compounds and the unique to specific species compounds, the number of constituents grows into the thousands. Many of the most important compounds for aroma and therapeutic value are in infinitesimally small amounts, literally trace proportions. Though small in proportion, these trace elements play an absolutely essential role among the multitude of components in that particular oil. It may surprise you to know that between trace components and as yet unidentified components, there has never been even one essential oil that has been completely and thoroughly analyzed. No, not even one. Chemists in laboratories the world over with all of their high-tech equipment cannot and have not ever created a credible list of all the ingredients found in even one bottle of one basic essential oil, let alone accounted for variations in growing conditions and harvesting and processing methods. The technology, even if one was willing to spend the time and the money, simply does not exist for such an endeavor. I will be borrowing heavily from examples in Dr. Stewart's book, The Chemistry of Essential Oils Made Simple. Let's take a look at two very basic essential oils to illustrate the point made just previously. We will begin with orange oil, known as Citrus sinensis. The official list for orange oil, according to Dr. Stewart, includes 36 different terpenoids, 34 alcohols, 30 esters, 20 aldehydes, 14 ketones, 10 carboxylic acids, plus flavonoids, carotenoids, steroids, coumarins, and a variety of saccharides, sugars in other words. There are more than 150 known constituents. Researchers suspect that there may be as many as 200 additional compounds in orange oil, in traces as yet to be identified. Now let's take a look at lavender. Just because it is such a good example of a thoroughly studied, thoroughly analyzed essential oil whose constituents, just like orange oil, have not yet all been discovered. Dr. Stewart says, so far, chemists have identified more than 50 monoterpenes, at least 10 sesquiterpenes, 10 to 15 alcohols, 10 to 15 esters, and at least 5 oxides, 5 aldehydes, 5 ketones, and 5 lactones. There are over 200 known compounds identified so far, and scientists suspect that this is only half of the constituents present in lavender. It should also be noted that even the exact same species and genus produce a different compositional mix from one season to another, and certainly from one continent to another. These differences are called chemotypes. Chemotypes make lists such as the ones from Dr. Stewart's book that we just discussed very general lists indeed. In spite of the sheer numbers of compounds and the complexity of their inclusion in various species under various growing conditions, I think it is still a valuable study to try and sort these compounds into basic categories and subcategories, and to try and list the basic therapeutic actions of each one, briefly. Please bear in mind that this type of study is a study of the infinite mind of the Creator with our mortal and finite minds. We cannot possibly know all there is to know about what God was thinking when He formulated these amazing molecules. We cannot help but be amazed and full of wonder at the gifts that God has given us through the plants of this earth. Also remember that many of these compounds are common to all essential oils, so the list of their therapeutic properties applies across the board to every essential oil that you make use of in your lives. From what is known at this time about the constituents of essential oils, they can be grouped into two less than distinct categories according to their molecular structures. These two groups are terpene hydrocarbons and oxygenated compounds. I say less than distinct categories because there are constituents that are almost as much one class as another, and are found and discussed under several headings and categories. For example, it seems most terpenes are hydrocarbons, but some contain common alcohols. Alcohols are listed as oxygenated compounds because they contain an oxygen molecule, but they are also terpenes and fall into both the monoterpene and sesquiterpene categories. They have therapeutic properties from all of the categories that apply to them. Another example of this crossing of categories are phenols. Phenols are important enough to be listed and commented on as a class of their own, but are really special alcohols built in a unique ring formation. We will be talking about these different categories in upcoming segments. All of this can be confusing but fascinating. Constituents are very much relevant to the healing properties of essential oils, and for me they're fun to study about. But they are not really critically necessary in order for you to understand your oils sufficiently well to use them with excellent results. Hydrocarbon terpenes. There are many classes of hydrocarbon terpenes, but since only the tiniest of molecules are found in essential oils, this limits the terpenes to 5. These 5 are monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, diterpenes, triterpenes, and tetraterpenes. There are approximately 1,000 different monoterpenes and 3,000 sesquiterpenes found in various essential oils. Diterpenes, triterpenes, and tetraterpenes have larger molecular structures which do not survive the distillation process in quantity. For this same reason, larger molecular structure, these constituents are not as aromatic, nor do they pass through the skin as readily as do mono and sesquiterpenes. The larger terpenes are found mostly in cold-pressed citrus oils and in some of the solvent-extracted essential oils. Now let's talk about monoterpenes. Monoterpenes are found in a great many, nearly all in fact, essential oils. They make up a huge percentage of the citrus oils that are made from the fruit and a substantial part of both neroli, which is a blossom oil, and petitgrain, which is made from leaves and twigs. Monoterpenes readily react to air, light, and heat, which accounts in part for the shorter shelf life of citrus essential oils. Citrus oils also contain tri- and tetraterpenes, which are even larger molecules, contributing to the relative fragility of citrus essential oils. Therapeutically, monoterpenes are a little bit complicated as this large group of chemicals vary greatly from each other in both structure and in healing properties. In a general sense, oils in which monoterpenes are found can be said to be anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, antiviral, and antibacterial. It is the monoterpene content that allows us to say with confidence that all essential oils are antimicrobial. Monoterpenes also have antioxidant properties. Put simply, this means that they are agents for the destruction of free radicals, preventing the destruction of cellular structures and increasing the lifespan and health of cellular tissues. In addition, scholarly articles can be found on the web linking monoterpenes and the oils that contain them to anti-carcinogenic properties. Monoterpenes also cleanse cellular receptor sites, a truly remarkable and beneficial therapeutic property indeed. The complicated part of trying to understand the therapeutic properties of monoterpene oils comes into play when you realize that some of these essential oils are calming, almost sedative in effect when used in small quantities, but can be stimulating when used in larger quantities. An outstanding example of this characteristic would be lavender essential oil. Lavender is a very soothing oil, but it is quite easy to overdose a small child with lavender, and instead of helping the child to rest, you end up with a wide awake and very active child. You may think that they never intend to sleep again. In addition, some monoterpene oils stimulate the flow of mucus, and others act as astringents, effectively drying up the mucous membranes and slowing the flow of mucus in specific areas of the body. A single essential oil may also act in either or both capacities. It is not uncommon for the use of an oil, or an herb for that matter, with a reputation for soothing the stomach, intestinal tract, or the lungs to first act as an expectorant, thoroughly cleaning things out before soothing and healing the digestive or respiratory tracts. When I had occasion to use one of these types of herbs or oils for a cough or a bout of flu, I tried to sit my child on a very washable blanket just in case. This sort of list, where monoterpene-containing oils act in exactly opposite ways from each other, or even within themselves, could go on and on. Remember, most, if not all, essential oils contain at least some monoterpenes, and many of them have a very high percentage of monoterpenes. The wide variety of therapeutic properties of monoterpene structures produce a very wide variety of therapeutic properties. Essential oils and herbal remedies, because their active ingredients have not been separated out and isolated from each other, will produce in the body what is needed, rather that is stimulation or calmness. For example, the same herb or the same essential oil is used to raise low blood pressure when that is needed, or to lower high blood pressure when that is the result that is desired. As mentioned, there are many different monoterpenes found in essential oils. I would like to mention just one of them, limonene. Limonene is found in 90% of the citrus essential oils and is known to be strongly antiviral. The antiviral effects of essential oils are invaluable and set them apart among all substances that claim to be healing. There have been many studies done showing limonene's usefulness against herpes simplex and other viruses. I found some very interesting information on the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center website recently. Sloan Kettering claims to be the world's oldest and largest private cancer center. They are a very interesting outfit. They have a department of integrative oncology with courses and classwork available to their physicians in the use of alternative modalities. They also have a great deal of information about alternative cures, along with the necessary disclaimers on their website. Next is a small part of the several pages of information concerning D-limonene. Sloan Kettering site. D-limonene has not been shown to treat or prevent cancer. I would say that's probably a necessary and wise disclaimer, but after having said that, they go on to say, D-limonene is derived from the peels of citrus fruits. It showed anti-inflammatory, wound healing, and anti-cancer effects in laboratory studies. D-limonene was shown to alter the signaling pathways within cancer cells in a way that stops cancer cells from multiplying and causes their death. This is called, I hope I pronounce it right, apoptosis? In animal models, D-limonene slowed the growth of pancreatic, stomach, colon, skin, and liver cancers. It also slowed formation of tumors and their progression in animals exposed to cancer-causing substances. However, these anti-cancer effects have not been shown in humans. The first and last sentences are a bit misleading and seem to contradict the rest of the quote. It should be noted that cancer studies on humans with alternative modalities are rarely conducted for sound legal reasons, and when they are conducted, the results are not widely published. There are a number of other reasons why, in my opinion at least, so few studies have been done and published. First, no one with sufficient money steps forward to fund them. Second, there is strong opposition to these studies and serious government regulation. Third is the difficulty of finding willing test subjects whose families are also willing. Fourth, in order for a study to be considered valid and quoted, it must have been done for a 7-year period, and that lengthy process is very expensive. And if it is studying natural cures, has little chance of being financially profitable for the person who funds the study, no matter the findings, because plants cannot be patented. These reasons pretty much keep quotable research from happening. Last but not least, claiming a cure for cancer without the protection of MD behind your name, and even then, is just plain risky both professionally and personally. You will note in your handout a couple of more paragraphs from the Sloan Kettering site. The superscript numbers are references to a few studies that actually were conducted and serve to back up the claims being made. I don't understand a lot of these big words, and I probably can't pronounce them either, but they sound official, and I do understand that they are claims that D-limonene doesn't like cancer cells. I'll read it to you, and you can reread it on the handout. D-limonene and its metabolites may inhibit tumor growth via inhibition of P21-dependent signaling and apoptosis. Remember, apoptosis means the cancer cells can't reproduce and die quickly. Apoptosis resulting from induction of the transforming growth factor beta signaling pathway. D-limonene metabolites also cause G1 cell cycle arrest, inhibit post-translational modification of signal transduction proteins, and cause differential expression of cell cycle and apoptosis-related genes. D-limonene induces apoptosis, cancer cell destruction and death, via the mitochondrial death pathway and suppression of the P13K and AKT pathway in human colon cancer cells. Animal studies show activity of D-limonene against pancreatic, stomach, colon, skin, and liver cancers. Data also indicates that D-limonene slows the promotion and progression stage of carcinosin-induced tumors in rats. The chemopreventative activity of D-limonene may be via inhibition of inflammation, oxidative stress, and RAS signaling, as well as the induction of pro-apoptotic states in a mouse model of skin tumorigenesis. Wow, that was a mouthful. I don't really understand a lot of it, although I looked up most of the big words, but I did get the message that D-limonene has an action against cancer according to these studies. This information about limonene is just one small example of the information available on the Sloan Kettering website referring to alternative therapies in cancer treatment. It's worth checking out. Sesquiterpenes are next. Sesquiterpenes, remember there are at least 3,000 of them that we know of, are even more varied in therapeutic action than monoterpenes. Members of the sesquiterpene group are found in most, if not all, essential oils. Sometimes they constitute a large percent of the oil, and other times they're just a small percent. Sesquiterpenes range from nearly odorless to strongly fragrant. Sesquiterpenes occur in essential oils in groups of several types together and are generally more prevalent in essential oils made from leaves and flowers. Some of the things which essential oils which contain sesquiterpenes might do for you include: carry oxygen throughout the body, produce increased oxygenation around the pineal and pituitary glands. Sesquiterpenes, because they carry oxygen molecules, are highly antiseptic. In addition, they often act as digestive bitters. Sesquiterpenes are stimulating to the various organs of the digestive tract, with their primary action being on the liver and on the glandular system. Some sesquiterpene molecular structures are powerfully anti-inflammatory and antispasmodic. Other sesquiterpenes are calming and soothing to the nervous system. The molecular structure of sesquiterpenes is such that these molecules can cross the blood-brain barrier, bringing their therapeutic properties to play within the brain itself and into the blood and cerebral spinal fluid that passes through the brain. This should be highlighted, underlined, put up in lights. Sesquiterpene oils are said to delete faulty memories from the cells themselves. This aspect of essential oils, working with cellular memory, is discussed in a separate portion of this presentation called Essential Oils and Cellular Memory. Sesquiterpenes also extend the half-life of lighter, more volatile molecules in the oils in which they occur and in the blends to which these oils are added. Here is yet another good reason to use essential oils in well-blended formulas. Sesquiterpenes are strong enough to irritate the skin if not diluted properly. The most famous sesquiterpene oil is, of course, frankincense, but there are other very nice oils with sesquiterpenes as a major component. Some of these are cedarwood, patchouli, sandalwood, ylang, yarrow, elemi, lemongrass, sage, and cypress. Even peppermint contains as much sesquiterpenes as frankincense. Camazuline is generally considered to be a sesquiterpene, although it is not a naturally occurring molecular structure at all. Rather, it is formed as a result of heat during the distillation process. Camazuline is dark blue in color and has some pretty amazing therapeutic properties. Essential oils which contain camazuline are traditionally used for such things as the control of free radicals. They act as a nervine in anxiety, upset stomach, and for stress relief. These oils are very anti-inflammatory and antispasmodic. They can act to relax smooth muscles such as those in the gastrointestinal tract, and they have a profound effect on the regulation of energy throughout the body. Dishonest oil dealers and producers sometimes add synthetic camazuline to cheaper Moroccan chamomile to increase profits. Synthetic camazuline might also be added to oils which did not develop sufficient dark blue color due to mishandling of temperature during the distillation process. The dark blue color of an essential oil that is supposed to contain camazuline is supposed to be a good sign. But due to this type of dishonesty, a really dark blue can indicate that the oil is too good to be true. Camazuline is found in essential oils of German chamomile, blue yarrow, blue tansy, and surprisingly wormwood, an oil that is strongly cautioned for very good reasons. The list of butterfly blends that contain at least one of these three basic blue oils is quite extensive. Among my favorites are Dreams, Letting Go, Life Force, and of course Millennia. Angel, Migraine, Vision, Victory, and Solitude also contain significant amounts of these oils. Farnesene is another interesting and common sesquiterpene compound. Farnesines are antibacterial and antiviral, but they tend to inhibit the growth of bacteria instead of killing them outright. What does that mean? Well, bacteria perform many necessary functions in our bodies. While an antibiotic attempts to kill them all, the good with the bad, leaving only the strongest nasty bacteria to carry on, essential oils containing farnesene are far more discriminating than this. They kill bad bacteria, but limit the growth of necessary bacteria such as Candida albicans to proper levels. Bacteria overgrowths are only possible when our bodies are in an unhealthy acidic state. Essential oils such as those containing farnesines can help us maintain a healthy pH balance for the future. after the bacterial colony has been brought under control. Among the essential oils containing farnesene are German chamomile, valerian, ylang, ginger, and chaste tree. There are many other essential oils that have a trace, less than 3% of farnesenes among their components. Butterfly blends containing farnesene include exhilaration, focus, lighten, quiet essence, Stephanie, victory, and a whole list of blends containing a significant amount of ylang. I like to add ylang to blends. We will discuss diterpenes next. Diterpenes are among the heaviest molecules found in essential oils and are actually found in only a very few essential oils at all. The molecular weight of diterpene molecules is 272 AMU and is just about as large a molecule as will survive the distillation process. Diterpenes are not as well studied or documented as are monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes, and they are considered to have many of the same therapeutic properties as sesquiterpenes. Additionally, they are considered to be expectorants and even purgatives, and to show some effectiveness against fungi and viruses. Oils containing diterpenes include jasmine, clary sage, cypress, pine, and sage. I'm always amazed as I look at these lists at the variation. The same oils such as jasmine and sage on the same list with the same constituent. Except for jasmine, the diterpene content is very low, less than 5%. Triterpenes. Triterpene molecules are even heavier in molecular weight than are diterpenes. They are simply too bulky to make it through the distillation process in any significant quantities. Triterpene molecules are, as a result, generally found predominantly among oils processed through cold pressing, such as the citrus oils, and in oils processed using solvent extraction methods. Some of these oils would be jasmine, neroli, birch, and resins such as myrrh. In many parts of the world, only distilled oils are referred to as essential oils. Pressed oils are referred to as essences, while solvent-extracted oils are called absolutes. The percentage of the triterpene squalene in jasmine, which must be processed as an absolute to maintain its therapeutic properties, can be as high as 14% of the oil. According to Dr. Stewart, ongoing research projects suggest that squalene may have anti-carcinogenic, cholesterol-regulating, and even immune-boosting capabilities. If so, this small essential oil component has been among the most underappreciated essential oil ingredients ever. To put squalene into the context of things you might be familiar with, this molecule is valued when found in shark liver oil, olive oil, wheat bran, rice bran, and yeast. It is used in our bodies in the biosynthesis of cholesterol, which, in spite of its undeserved bad reputation, is an essential steroid that is actually produced by our bodies because we need it. The therapeutic uses of triterpenes seem to be similar to those of diterpenes. Fortunately, research into terpenes of all kinds is ongoing. I found it interesting to note that the 1910 Nobel Prize winner for chemistry was a man named Professor Otto Wallach, and his prize was for his discovery of terpenes and his further work with them. His work is fascinating, especially considering the time in which it took place. His findings had a profound influence on the essential oil industry, helping it move forward as a healing modality rather than essential oils just being part of the perfume industry. Jasmine is an expensive oil, unless it has been adulterated. It can be found in butterfly blends such as Womanwise and Insight, and is a major player in some of the most exotic and emotionally healing blends of the butterfly line. These blends include Cherish, love that one, Exhilaration, and Expressions. Last, we'll talk for a moment about tetraterpenes. Because of their larger molecular size, tetraterpenes do not come through the distillation process very well at all. They are virtually absent in distilled essential oils. They are, however, found in some of the citrus oils, but even here they make up only a small percent of the complete oil. Tangerine oil has the most, at approximately 8% tetraterpenes. Tetraterpenes play a special role in nature. The dimensions of these larger molecules interact with light in such a way as to produce brilliant colors. They provide pigments to flowers, fruits, vegetables, animals, insects, including those beautiful butterflies, and are even responsible for the brilliant colors of fall leaves. Here is a little bit of kind of complicated chemistry that may give you an idea of why it is difficult to say that this constituent has this healing property and another constituent has a different list of healing properties. This principle applies to more than just essential oils that contain tetraterpenes. I will be paraphrasing Dr. Stewart once again here because without his help, chemistry is way beyond me. Carotene, a familiar name to most of us, is a tetraterpene and is found in mandarin, orange, tangerine, bergamot, grapefruit, lemon, and carrot seed essential oils. You were probably told by your mother, as I was, to eat your carrots because carrots are good for your eyes. Eventually, probably in science class, you were told that it was the carotene that was responsible both for your healthy eyes and for the orange color in the carrots. Here is a brief summary of what happens when your body comes across carotene. I love this sort of obscure science stuff. Sorry, a little bit sorry. Anyway, the large and long beta-carotene molecule, remember it's a tetraterpene, is metabolized, basically that means it's broken down in the body, by being divided exactly in half. Carotene being divided exactly in half creates two identical diterpene molecules. Question that comes to my mind at this point is, does it now have the therapeutic properties of tetraterpenes or diterpenes? Does it matter, since they are both so similar? Once the carotene molecule has been divided in this way, an oxygen atom is added to the two diterpenes. They are now oxygenated hydrocarbon terpenes that we know as vitamin A. Vitamin A is essential to your eyes because it is the raw product from which the body makes the protein that gives us sight. Vitamin A also does a whole host of other great things in our bodies. To name just a few would be to include such things as protecting against heart disease, decreasing the likelihood of developing cancer, improving hormone production in the thymus gland, and slowing the aging process. I am frequently asked whether or not essential oils contain vitamins. I looked for an answer to that question for a long time but never came across any legitimate studies that I could quote one way or the other. Perhaps the answer is found, at least in part, in the realization that essential oils provide the basic components that allow the chemical processing plants that are our bodies to create what we need from what they are given. I realize that not all vitamins are made in the body, so I'm still looking for answers where those other vitamins are concerned. What I learn as I study the chemistry of essential oils is that what is processed into what in our bodies is a complicated topic. Hundreds, if not thousands, of these processes go on within each of us every day. Much as I would like to know, I have come to accept that following the trail of every component in an essential oil is far too complicated to be of use to me in deciding what essential oil to use for what. But that is okay. It is sufficient for me to know that God is good and that He endowed the plants of His creation with the ability to be nourishing, strengthening, and healing to our bodies and to our souls and to our emotions. If I use my essential oils every day for whatever comes up in my life, I will be blessed and benefited and healthier and happier. In this segment, we are going to talk about oxygenated compounds. Among the oxygenated compounds that I want to talk about today for just a little minute each are esters, alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, phenols, carboxylic acids, oxides, and furanoids. Each one, and many others, could be discussed at length. I am going to be content to give you a few examples of each of the ones named above, along with just a short summary of their outstanding characteristics. I do this because it sets the stage for something else I want to talk to you about later, and just because it's basic oil information. First, let's talk about alcohols. Alcohols are considered one of the most therapeutic components found in essential oils. There is an amazing diversity of healing properties and aromas among the essential oils that contain various alcohols. Even though these oils are powerfully therapeutic and effective against a wide range of conditions and situations, they are generally mild, non-toxic, and non-irritating, unless a person really overdoes their use or neglects to dilute them properly with carrier oils. Please remember from our discussion of terpenes previously that although alcohols are oxygenated compounds, some of them are also classified as terpene alcohols. Monoterpene alcohols are antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal, and being monoterpenes are often both sedative and stimulating depending on the circumstances and the amount of the essential oil that is used. Lavender, geranium, tea tree, and peppermint are examples of monoterpene alcohol containing essential oils. Sesquiterpene alcohols are found in such oils as frankincense, sandalwood, vetiver, cedarwood, carrot seed, and spikenard. This list certainly gives us a wide range of therapeutic properties, including being highly anti-inflammatory, and often found on lists of oils to be considered for really drastic situations, such as cancer and nervous system disorders. Some other healing properties listed for alcohols include energizing, stimulating, toning, and my favorite, cleansing to receptor sites, but in a milder manner than phenolics, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The list of essential oils containing at least some alcohols include, this is a long list, brace yourself, rosewood, neroli, coriander, lavender, ylang, petitgrain, clary sage, bergamot, geranium, lemon, palmarosa, citronella, rose geranium, naya uli, marjoram, mountain savory, lemon eucalyptus, and fennel. Think back or look at that list, or the oils on your screen. That is about a wide variety of aromas and therapeutic effects as you will ever find on the same list. Phenols are oxygenated hydrocarbons, but they are also often members of other chemical families. There are phenolic alcohols, phenolic esters, phenolic aldehydes, and ketones, in addition to phenol propanoids. Phenols are built on a ring and have such unique and special properties that they are almost always referred to separately when discussing the constituents of essential oils, and no distinction is made as to whether the one being discussed is part of one family or part of another. Phenols are aggressive and assertive molecules, and a bit of caution should be used with most essential oils that contain them. Some phenol compounds are very strong and can irritate the skin and really annoy the tender lining of the mouth. Phenol compounds are strongly antimicrobial. That means they work against bacteria and most everything else. They are antiparasitic, but act at the same time to preserve the friendly microbes in our system. Not wonderful? They're strong, but discriminating. It has always seemed odd to me that the same essential oil can whomp on a nasty bacteria, irritate the skin and some mucous membranes while protecting good bacteria and nourishing our internal environment. But that is what phenolic compounds are capable of. Essential oils containing phenol compounds are very good at destroying free radicals, cleansing cellular receptor sites, creating an environment in which nasty bacteria and viruses cannot thrive, and in boosting the immune system. Essential oils containing phenols are often used to treat depression because phenols nourish and strengthen the nervous system. From time to time, there will be well-meaning aromatherapists who express concern over possible liver toxicity from the long-time use of essential oils containing phenolic compounds. As is so often the case when concern about herbal or essential oil toxicity arises, the studies referred to were conducted using isolated compounds, not using the essential oils or herbals themselves. Please, when reading this kind of material, either ignore it or take the time to verify what was actually being studied. A couple of world-renowned aromatherapists are especially noted for this kind of thing. I don't know if naming them without citing proof is legally wise, so I will refrain from doing so. Some essential oils which contain phenols are wintergreen at a whopping 97%, with anise and birch close behind. Other essential oils containing phenol compounds include clove, basil, tarragon, fennel, oregano, thyme, mountain savory, peppermint, tea tree, and calamus. As you can see from that list, these are the heavy guns when fighting microbes. Aldehydes are next in today's discussion. There are hundreds of different molecular structures in essential oils that fit in the aldehyde grouping. Aldehydes are responsible for some of the most delightful fragrances in the perfume and cologne industry, But of course, in those industries, the aldehydes are often synthetic. Besides their pleasing fragrance, aldehydes are sought after in the perfume industry because they are reputed to be aphrodisiacs. In essential oils, the aldehydes are responsible for such properties as being antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and calming to the nervous system. It is an amazing thing when essential oil can calm you emotionally while at the same time reduce your high blood pressure, dilate blood vessels that need it, and reduce a fever. Aldehydes are strong enough that they can cause skin irritation if not properly diluted when applied to the skin. This is not really a problem since prompt application of a carrier oil to the reddened area brings immediate relief. Sensitization, meaning there is a reaction every time the oil is used even when diluted, can occur with synthetic aldehydes because they tend to remain in and on the body for longer periods of time. One good way to tell a synthetic essential oil or essential oil blend from a natural oil of good quality is that the aroma stays and stays way longer than the natural metabolism time of the essential oil. The natural metabolism time of most essential oils is well under 4 hours. While aldehydes are responsible for some very pleasant odors, not all aldehyde-containing essential oils are considered pleasant, and there is a wide aromatic range in essential oils containing aldehydes. The aroma of such oils is lemongrass, melissa, cinnamon bark, geranium, lemon, and marjoram could not be much further apart. Oils containing large percentages of aldehydes include cassia, lemongrass, lemon eucalyptus, melissa, cumin, cinnamon bark, caraway, and lime. Once again, I am amazed by the wide aroma variety among the essential oils on the same list. Oils with a lower percentage of aldehydes include catnip, lemon, calamus, bitter orange, citronella, orange, marjoram, cistus, geranium, myrrh, and myrtle. Ketones are not as prevalent in essential oils as some other constituents, but they come in countless varieties and are responsible for some of the most powerful, unusual, and usually pleasant aromas found in essential oil world. Even so, ketones make up more than 50% in such oils as vetiver and hyssop, for example. The aromas of ketone-containing oils, as with the aldehyde-containing oils, are also very different from one essential oil to another. A few examples of this variety are caraway, spearmint, fennel, jasmine, lavender, vetiver, peppermint, and sage. What a variety of aromas! Examples of essential oils that have no ketones at all include all of the expressed citrus oils as well as cypress and juniper. Most other essential oils do have at least traces of a ketone or two, and that is all it takes to have an impact on the fragrance and the therapeutic properties of that oil. The therapeutic properties of ketones include calming and sedating, analgesic, expectorant, decongestant, being a digestive aid, and they may encourage wound healing. Thujone, which is a ketone, can be an irritant and upsetting to the nervous system when taken internally, another reason not to ingest your essential oils. An important therapeutic property of ketones is their ability to cleanse cellular receptor sites, preparing them to be more efficient in absorbing incoming nutrients and information. Once again, this will be talked about in Essential Oils and Cellular Memory. Because of their specific ketones, at least in part, Tagetes and turmeric, and probably other oils that I'm not remembering at the moment, are strongly antiparasitic. Tagetes has almost 60% of a ketone called tagatone. I mention this because both marigolds, that is what Tagetes oil is, and Tagetes essential oil make excellent bug repellents for use in the garden. Even small furry animals are not fond of this aroma. Once again, as so often happens, there are many warnings and precautions listed in some aromatherapy books, even those written by people who are well known and even respected for their knowledge. Every time I have followed the trail of these studies, I have found them to be conducted using isolated ketones, not whole essential oils. In addition, the ketones were administered in high doses in animal studies. Admittedly, ketones can be very strong, even a bit caustic. Anything effective against internal parasites needs to be. A reasonable amount of caution, this means please don't take them internally and dilute them well for external use, is good advice. The warnings against the use of ketone-containing essential oils based on studies of isolated ketone compounds is unjustified and certainly does not match up with the actual experiences of thousands of people. The suggestion that I should make do without such lovely and useful essential oils as cedarwood, spearmint, dill, yarrow, peppermint, rosemary, helichrysum, and myrrh makes me very unhappy, perhaps a bit angry. And this is only a partial list of the oils containing ketones that someone somewhere has erroneously listed cautions against. Common sense and dilution in their use is advisable, but then that is recommended for any essential oil, isn't it? In order to talk about esters in essential oils, there needs to be a little bit said about carboxylic acids. Acids are never a main ingredient in essential oils and are rarely more than 1 or 2% of an oil. Styrax benzoin, also known as onycha, is an exception with about 19% carboxylic acid. Oregano and lemon eucalyptus come next at 4%. Acids are chemically aggressive compounds which seek out other compounds, often an alcohol molecule to chemically react with. Since essential oils are a mix of so many fun compounds for carboxylic acids to play with, it is difficult for the acid to remain part of an oil because it is happily combined with another compound and both have become something else altogether. When carboxylic acid molecules combine with alcohol molecules, an ester is formed, which is why we are talking about them before we talk about esters. Without adding another page to this already long document and probably boring presentation, I want to explain that there is a world of difference between an organic acid, in the true sense of the word, and an inorganic acid. Quoting Dr. Stewart again, he says, carboxylic acids are also called organic acids and differ from inorganic acids in that they always contain carbon and oxygen. Inorganic acids do not contain carbon and are stronger than most organic acids. Inorganic acids are also called mineral acids. Examples of mineral acids are sulfuric acid, otherwise known as battery acid, and hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is a constituent of many prescription drugs. There are no mineral acids in essential oils. Carbon molecules, remember they're missing in inorganic acids, are the magic found in activated charcoal that neutralizes acids and absorbs poisons. Think about that fact for a moment. Carbon molecules in natural acids provide quenching and safety from the caustic aspects of acids while allowing us to reap the benefits from them. Isn't God good, and man perhaps a little cocky in thinking that their creations can imitate His? Only God can make a tree, or a healing plant, it seems. Acids in general, other than carboxylic acids, are so rare and unusual that many of them are found in only one essential oil. Some of these acid molecules are powerfully antimicrobial. Styrax benzoin was used in hospitals all over the world for more than 200 years, in tincture rather than essential oil form, as an antiseptic. Eventually, less expensive, and it turns out less effective, synthetic antiseptics came into use. Synthetic antiseptics share responsibility for the creation of resistant strains of bacteria against which these same synthetics are no longer effective. This is a classic example of the difference between man's creations and God's creations. Next, we will discuss esters. I like that name. The majority of essential oils do not contain a large percentage of esters, but almost every essential oil has at least small amounts of one or more esters as a component. There are a great many different ester compounds in essential oils. Not all of these esters are naturally present in the original plant material. They are created when weak acids, stimulated by heat, react with remaining alcohols to form esters. In all cases of ester formation during distillation, the esters are non-toxic and both aromatic and therapeutic. Roman chamomile contains more than a dozen esters, and esters account for up to 75% of this oil. The therapeutic properties attributed to Roman chamomile are typical of esters in general. Esters are loved for their soothing, relaxing, and stress-reducing effects on the nervous system. Among oxides, cineol is one of the few that are present in more than trace amounts in essential oils. Since cineol is produced by hundreds of plants, it is a common ingredient in essential oils. German chamomile, with a couple of unique to itself oxides, stands alone in this category. Cineol, like other oxides, is very sensitive to growing conditions. This fact accounts for the wide range of quality between crops, even for the same fields from one year to the next. For example, the concentrations of this oxide in tea tree oil can be anywhere from 0 to 18%. Other oils such as Roman chamomile may have as little as 1% or as much as 25%, and Ravensara can range from 20% to 60%. These kinds of wide ranges affect both therapeutic properties and safety issues when using essential oils. That makes the purchase of essential oils an interesting proposition. There is a wide range of opinions, once again, about the safety of cineol. The FDA has classified eucalyptus globulus oil as generally regarded as safe for internal use. But taking into account the FDA's track record with drug safety, this means very little to me. In certain publications, usually found in Britain, Tisserand and others cite reports, tell anecdotes, and list all sorts of cautions for oils containing cineol, and for a great many other constituents of essential oils. Since they too frequently quote studies of man-made or isolated compounds, their opinions are not trustworthy in my opinion either. I know, I've said this before, but it's important. In reality, incidents of problems with essential oils used in reasonable amounts and properly diluted are non-existent, as far as I can determine. And once again, please don't take your oils internally. Contrary to what you will read in some reports, cineol does not build up to toxic levels in the body with repeated use. Research indicates that the half-life of cineol is only 10 to 20 minutes. In other words, 10 to 20 minutes after you apply the oil containing cineol, your body has metabolized half of it and is well on its way to finishing off the rest. This is true if the cineol is natural. It is not true of synthetic molecules. A short list of essential oils containing cineol should give a pretty good idea of its therapeutic value. Essential oils at more than 50% cineol include the various species of eucalyptus, cajeput, ravensara, and nyauli. As you can see, these are the really powerful antiviral and antibacterial essential oils. To continue on down the list a bit, you have bay laurel, myrtle, cardamom, thyme, sage, tea tree, and yarrow. Furanoid compounds. Finding information about furanoid compounds that is not about their possible phototoxic properties is something I have been unable to accomplish. The subject of phototoxicity was covered in an article put on the butterflyexpressions.net blogspot during the month of June in 2017. Put very simply, some essential oils containing furanoids are considered to be phototoxic. Other oils containing even higher percentages of furanoids are not. In fact, in the case of myrrh oil, it actually protects the skin from the effects of ultraviolet rays. The best ways to deal with furanoid-containing oils are 1. Know what oils contain furanoids, and 2. Put these oils on your body in places where the skin will not be exposed to sunlight for at least 24 hours, longer if the oil contains bergamot. Of course, just putting all your essential oils on your body where the sun won't shine will save you step number 1. A safety reminder here. Burns from exposing skin that has been covered with phototoxic oils do not always occur immediately after you put the oil on your body and go into the sun. Nor can you always tell if you're going to have trouble while you're out in the sun. Phototoxicity is a chemical reaction, and sometimes chemical reactions take a little time. I mentioned in the beginning that there were probably somewhere between 100 and 400 different constituents in each essential oil. Obviously, we have not talked about them all in this probably too long a discussion. What was the point of talking about any of them and of all this chemistry? It was not to make you a chemist, and probably not even to give you a lot of practical knowledge of essential oils, since many essential oils contain at least a small percentage of many of the constituents. The therapeutic properties mentioned for each category apply to so many oils in one way or another. There was a goal, and the goal was threefold. The first goal was to remind you that essential oils are complicated creations. They have so many absolutely amazing healing constituents. Understanding the basics of some important constituents may give you a bit of guidance in your choice of oils for certain situations. Such is the case with the 3 constituents discussed in the next segment. The section is titled Essential Oils and Cellular Memory. The ability of essential oils to cleanse cellular receptor sites and reprogram cells is important and exciting stuff. Now that we have the basics of constituents out of the way, I'm looking forward to presenting that section. In addition, knowledge may inform any attempts you might make at blending. If you use muscle testing to choose essential oils, any bit of knowledge you can obtain will help to inform your muscles, making it more accurate and giving you proper checks and balances. The second goal of this presentation on constituents is to help you see that no matter what ailment or negative emotion you may be experiencing, there is something in an essential oil, most probably in many essential oils, that God put there to assist you. The use of essential oils is simply one way of taking advantage of God's great goodness and His abundant gifts to His children. The best description of the beautiful healing blessings that is essential oils that I have ever come across is found on the cover of Dr. Stewart's book, The Chemistry of Essential Oils Made Simple. That title makes me laugh. In the bottom right-hand corner, as a subtitle, are the words, God's Love Made Manifest in Molecules. This is the way I feel about God and about every one of His amazing healing creations. I hope this love shines through in everything I say and do. The third goal was to set the stage using chemistry and constituents for the further understanding of essential oils in ways that are a lot more fun, more interesting, and I hope more helpful in helping us know how to use oils for day-to-day things. I thank you for listening, and please remember that most of the time there is an oil for that, whatever that happens to be at the moment. Essential oils and cellular memory. There was a time when I first heard these 2 words, cellular memory, that I felt like that was something kind of new age wacko idea with no basis in reality. Then I read, studied, and pondered emerging research. I learned that bits of the events that happen to us are stored in our cells as memory every 10th of a second. If what is about to happen to us, or what we think is about to happen to us, is not understood by us properly, these bits of memory, when strung back together in our conscious minds and called memory, may not reflect reality, but will instead reflect the event as we believed it was about to occur. This is particularly true if there was any degree of fear in our minds at the time, or if what is occurring triggers memories of unpleasant events from our past. Misperceptions based on childhood experiences likely happen more often than we know, simply because children, many times, simply do not have the experience with the world to fully understand what is happening, and not understanding creates uncertainty and fear. The research indicates that bits of memory can even be formed under the right or wrong conditions from video games and even TV shows, and from experience such as hearing one's parents arguing intensely. So what do we do with these disorganized bits of memory? According to Dr. David Stewart, in articles that he has published and in his marvelous book, The Chemistry of Essential Oils Made Simple, when the essential oil you are using, either by inhalation or through the skin, contains 3 very special constituents in the proper proportions, amazing things can happen in the individual cells of the body. These 3 unique constituents are phenolics, also sometimes spelled phenylpropanoids, Sesquiterpenes, and Monoterpenes. These 3 constituents, acting in tandem, are thought to act on the cellular structures to aid us in making sense of these memory pieces. Phenolics. The role of oils containing phenolics is to clean the cellular receptor sites so that both nutrition and information can be transmitted in and out of the cell through the cell walls. Besides working with cellular memory, phenolics also create conditions that are unfriendly to bacteria and viruses and gobble up free radicals. That would seem like enough work for a small group of molecules, but phenolics also boost the immune system and support and nourish the nervous system. Essential oils containing phenolics are often of benefit in treating depression. In addition, phenols are expectorants. They increase the flow of mucus. When applying essential oils to the body or when learning to blend, it should be remembered that phenols are assertive and aggressive little creatures. Their presence in an essential oil is often the dominant factor in the aroma of that oil. They are warrior molecules, ready and willing to fight off invading microbes and to make life really miserable for parasites. They wreak all this destruction while at the same time protecting and strengthening the friendly flora, that necessary bacteria and enzymes of the body. Phenols can be caustic and potentially irritating to the skin. They should be used in appropriately small amounts and diluted well. It should be noted before moving on from talking about phenolics that cellular receptor site cleansing can also be accomplished by ketones and/or alcohols. Alcohols are less aggressive in their cleansing action, so it takes a higher percentage of them, usually, to get the work done. The molecular configuration of sesquiterpenes makes it easy for them to cross the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is a membrane which lies between the circulating blood and the brain. This membrane is supposed to prevent toxins and other damaging substances from reaching the brain tissue and keep them from entering the cerebral spinal fluid from there. Recent research indicates that some of the toxins created in laboratories in our modern times do not respect this barrier as much as we have been led to believe. Sesquiterpenes are said to cross this barrier, and as they do so, neutralize or carry off many of these toxic substances. Sesquiterpenes also reduce inflammation and bring healing to the brain. The role of sesquiterpenes in cellular memory is to delete faulty information from cells. I know, that sounds strange. This information may be instructions about cellular function, or it may be misperceptions or beliefs that are not serving us well in our life or are just plain incorrect. It may be those little bits, that 1/10 of a second bits, that do not make sense by themselves or have been strung together incorrectly and are providing us with incorrect data. Monoterpenes complete the trio by acting to restore the original blueprint that was placed by the Creator in the DNA of our cells. Improper coding, picked up as we move through our lives, can result in disease and in false memories of events with their accompanying triggers that keep us from experiencing gratitude and finding our way to forgiveness. Monoterpenes bring order and good sense to the memories of events that really are stored in each cell of our bodies. Let's recap the basic functions as far as cellular memory goes of these three constituents separate from all the other information about them. First, the phenolics clear the receptor sites, paving the way for better communication. Then the sesquiterpenes delete the faulty or useless bits of information, paving the way for the monoterpenes. Monoterpenes then reprogram the cell with new and useful information. Many, if not most, disease states cannot continue in the body when communication between our cells has been restored, when confusing, garbled, and incorrect information has been deleted from the database, and when the image of our cells programmed into our cells by a loving Creator has been rewritten and reinstalled within us. What an amazing sequence of events! There are a few single essential oils, only a few, however, that contain all three of these constituents: phenols, monoterpenes, and sesquiterpenes, and several more that contain either ketones or alcohols. Members of the Melaleuca family, the tea trees and niuli, contain phenols, monoterpenes, and sesquiterpenes in the proper percentages. Marjoram many times falls into the proper percentages, although the sesquiterpene content of the average marjoram is just barely sufficient. There are other essential oils that contain all three constituents, but the percentage of one or the other of them is a bit low or a bit high, and the effectiveness is lost. Lavender, containing no phenols but having plenty of alcohol and sesquiterpene content, is an amazing oil for cellular memory work because its cleansing properties, while effective, are very gentle. Blending single oils together using a solid representative or two from each group allows us to tailor-make our blends for both effectiveness and aroma, and expands the number of ways and aromas that are ours to choose from in working with cellular memory and with our emotional and spiritual selves. As I looked at the butterfly blends that I have created over the years, I realized that I usually blend with this in mind, and other times I hit the proper percentages without even knowing I was doing it. I made a quick list off the top of my head of some of these blends. Turned out to be 25 of them, and that's only the ones that came to mind. They are on your screen and in your paperwork. Please note the variety of the therapeutic uses and the aromas of these oils. I'm only going to name a couple, well, probably about 10 as an illustration. For instance, Angel and Benediction and Bountiful and Cherish are all blends of these sorts with very different therapeutic uses and distinctive aromas. Other blends would include Heart Song and Letting Go, pretty similar. But Life Force and Mellow Plus and Millennia and Turmoil and Undone, very physical blends, and yet they're working on cellular memory. As you can see from the list, this amazing threesome of cleansing, deleting, and rewriting can be incorporated into blends for every type of emotional work and into blends that work for very physical sorts of things. A blend created to work therapeutically in the manner described above, according to Dr. Stewart, would contain proportions of these constituents in the following ranges. You would need 10 to 50% of phenols, or phenols with ketones and alcohols. You would need 10 to 60% of monoterpenes and 3 to 20% of sesquiterpenes. I find these recommended proportions interesting because the variations in the ranges are so wide that meeting the requirements when blending is really quite easy. It takes only a small percentage of an oil high in sesquiterpenes added to the oils chosen and blended according to their phenol and monoterpene contents and the aroma you are trying for to create a well-balanced blend. Adding an essential oil with phenols to one of the great sesquiterpenes and monoterpene oils is also an easy and effective method for achieving an oil with all three of these constituents. Dr. Stewart's book is amazing. Once again, I'm referring to The Chemistry of Essential Oils Made Simple. This is a big book, and there is a wealth of information there, and most of it is not too technical to be thoroughly enjoyed, especially if you read this big book more than once. One of the things that I like most about this book is that Dr. Stewart is not afraid to teach from where he stands. Where he stands is with a firm faith in God. In fact, the subtitle of the book mentioned and displayed right on the cover in the bottom right-hand corner in bold letters is God's Love Made Manifest in Molecules. I find Dr. Stewart's willingness to tell it like he believes it is refreshing, and it makes me trust that he is speaking what he believes to be true when he talks about other things as well. Dr. Stewart points out in his book that the ability of these three essential oil constituents to cleanse, erase faulty data, and reprogram the cells is similar to the stages a person must pass through in one's individual search for God and for peace. I will paraphrase his remarks to fit my own beliefs a little more closely here for just a minute. First, in all spiritual growth, there is a stage where we must cleanse ourselves by being willing to be taught and willing to give up the things that are not right in our lives in order to create better patterns. This is similar to the function of the phenols, or the ketones and the alcohols, in cleansing our cellular receptor sites. We must prepare, or be prepared, for the release of emotional and spiritual blocks. Second, as we are willing and prepared, we are able to enter a stage where darkness, confusion, doubt, and personal insecurities are cleared from our consciousness and from our souls. This can be compared to the ability of sesquiterpenes to erase incorrect data in our cells and help us to eradicate any dark emotions or misperceptions or even spiritual shortcomings that block our vision of God and our vision of ourselves as children of God. Third, there is a stage where we are taught in whole sentences if we are willing to listen. We are able to see truth as it applies to ourselves, to others, and to our place in God's plan. I want to quote Dr. Stewart word for word here. He says, "This is analogous to the function of the monoterpenes that assist in reestablishing the divine image of God that was placed within us at our creation, the manifestations of which is our purpose in being." Now, if all this talk about God has bothered you, dismiss it, because in a moment I'll give you another analogy for this. In closing this segment, I should probably note that there are some, only one that I know of, who are quick with their opinions that Dr. Stewart may be making over-the-top claims as to the amazing healing properties of essential oils when he talks about cellular memory. My opinion, for what it's worth, is that they do not have the science and laboratory background that Dr. Stewart has, nor do they seem to have the understanding of the impact that essential oils can have on emotions, and on traumatic memories, and on emotional triggers. They also lack the spirit and testimony of Dr. Stewart's work and writings. Another way of describing the personality of these three constituents might be to compare them to people. Monoterpenes are like mothers. Monoterpenes teach correct principles, provide encouragement, and see that we focus on growth and improvement in physical, mental, and spiritual health. Monoterpenes are usually humble servants, always willing to work and just as willing to let others take the credit, or even to help them look good. That was certainly true of my own mother. She would say to me after helping me to sew something nice to wear by doing most of it herself as she taught me. Then she would say, "You don't need to let on to anyone anything but that you did this yourself. You will do it the next time." Sesquiterpenes are like sensible big brothers, or maybe more accurately like the special mentors that have meant so much to us during our lives. They're responsible and wise. They help us learn to pace ourselves and those around us so that we can all accomplish the tasks set before us. Sesquiterpenes are always willing to go where others will not and do the hard stuff that needs doing. They kindly and firmly control the overexuberant and gently guide and lead the shy and reluctant molecules as great mentors do. Phenolics are very much like unruly little boys, full of energy and usually with good intentions. They are the fighters, the righters of wrong, the warriors, the police who look for and run off invaders such as viruses, bacteria, parasites, heavy metals, chemicals, drugs, and other unsavory characters. Phenols are initiators. They get the healing process rolling by clearing the way and cleaning the house. Do I believe that essential oils really do such things as rewrite cellular memory and help us heal from both physical and emotional trauma? Yes, I do. The things that I have seen over the years have illustrated to me that nothing less than this miraculous triad of events is taking place. I have no doubt that those of you who work with essential oils and with people have seen similar miracles to the ones that I have been part of over the years. There are many other constituents found in essential oils. The previous section of this discussion on constituents discusses the basic healing properties of some of them. Thank you once again for listening.